Every civilization has a special unit, and you often ask, hey Chisgule, across all these different civilizations, which special unit is the best, and how much of a priority should this actually be in my picking a civilization? Well, guess what? We did the research, and we have an answer. Stick around where we're going to tell you exactly which special units are the very best in Rise of Kingdoms and how this should influence your choice around what civilization you ultimately choose. Hello my friends and welcome back. Today we're going to help you figure out what the very best special unit is for you in Rise of Kingdoms. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, then consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos, because we have become a mad scientist figuring out what the very best optimizations are in this game so that you can slay your enemies. Now, in this video, we're going to do a couple things. Timestamps, of course, are in the description, so you can jump to whatever part you're most interested in. We're going to first reveal how special units work and how this will ultimately influence your battle reports. From there, we're going to talk about whether or not this should influence your choice of picking a civilization, because yes, these are not just cosmetic changes about the different special units. They do have different stats to that end. The next thing we'll do is look at the special unit stats in every civilization and compare them. And we'll, at that point, reveal why it matters and how you pick a civilization based on those choices. Or maybe it's not influenced at all. That will be the last topic. Do you change your civilization based on these different special units or not? So let's start by talking about how special units even work. I've chosen the civilization Germany. I have the Teutonic Knight special unit, and that comes into play for your tier 4 or tier 5 troops of a certain unit type. So for Germany, that Teutonic Knight is a cavalry unit. My T4 and T5 cavalry unit are replaced with the Teutonic Knights. Now, these units have slightly different stats from the base unit that everybody else gets that doesn't have a cavalry special unit. Those stats are displayed here, and the base stats are in white. The bonuses that I have to those stats based on all kinds of things, and we'll explain that in a moment, are going to be in green. So the thing that you get by choosing a different special unit is some amount of different base stats, and we'll reveal in this video just how important those are. If you didn't see my video yesterday, you're going to want to watch that after you finish watching this video. Card will be up in the top, so it'll be available to you, because in that video, we revealed that the stat that should be most important to you is the one that is the lowest across all your other stats, and typically that is health. So we're just going to plant that seed and say health is very important. We'll explain why later on, and we have a full detailed guide. Watch the video with that card up in the top. Health is going to be the best stat as we go and evaluate all these different choices. Now, this may change at some point later in the game, but I don't think it will. So let's talk about how exactly a special unit contributes to a fight. When you're in a fight, whether you are in a rally or in a garrison or in the open field, the stats that your unit is going to contribute depends on what you see here. When you're joining a rally or a garrison, it is the technology and bonuses of the rally or garrison leader that benefits the whole group. And if you're joining a rally, then what you're contributing is these stats over here. The rally is going to figure out, hey, wait a minute, based on my having some Teutonic Knights that are T4, some regular cavalry that are T4, some T5 cavalry, what the blend of ultimate attack and defense and health will be and how much damage is taken. And that is how it decides how much damage your rally is ultimately dealing and taking, how many troops die, and so forth. So by having a special unit, you're contributing slightly better stats, potentially, to the way that a rally will go. This is also relevant in the open field, but if it's your march in the open field, you're going to be contributing both the base stats and also, of course, your bonuses are applying because you're effectively the captain of that march. You're the your tech is what's going to apply there. So by having a special unit, you slightly tweak the dynamic of the way a rally will go. Honestly, it's very, very minimal how much that impact is. The bigger impact is going to be all of the stats of the rally leader. What's their gear, what's their equipment, and so forth. So when we talk about what the impact really is on the battlefield, I want to be straight with you and say that it is very, very minimal. We will quantify just how precise that is in just a bit. Now, very soon, we're going to show you the charts with the stats of every single special unit in the game, courtesy of Stormy from Kingdom 1206. Much respect and thank you for putting that together. We're going to show you those stats, but before I do, I want to call out just how important those are so we know really what we're looking at when we go and look at these charts. The attack, health, and defense of a special unit is typically elevated by some combination of between 11 to 13 or so base points. So what that means is that, like, as an example, the attack might be elevated for, a cavalry special unit by like 11 to 13 base points. The defense might be elevated, or maybe there's a combination of like health and attack. In the case of the Teutonic Knight, we are slightly elevated for both, I believe, defense and health, and it's a combination of about 11 points. Now, you'll see all of the details in just a second, but I just want to point out how good is 11 points of boost to the base stats. And what we can do to figure that out is we can get a look at how we can modify our bonuses over here and see exactly what we would get with 11 points over here. So to give an example, if I were to take my city skin, and right now I actually have no modification to cavalry, if I go and gain cavalry attack, so let's do this. We have no city skin now. We go look at our cavalry, we go look at our T4, and we have 194 bonus to attack. So it adds the 187 base stats plus the 194. Well, if I go and I change this to 5% extra cavalry attack, it was 194 before. Now we're looking at 203. We gained about 9 points of effectiveness here. So when we talk about the special unit and how much benefit we're getting and what's the mental model for this? Because these numbers are weird to think about. We don't look at these numbers every day, but we do look at the percentage points every day, and we make choices, right? 11 points is about 6% of stats, right? So it's like 6% of stats that are floating around between attack, defense, and health. Just for the mental model here, it's a little bit more than a city skin's worth of benefit to the unit across those different stats. That's how much the 11 to 13 base points represents, because we can see here the 5% cavalry health gave us about 9 points. To give another example of that, I'll just neutralize my city skin for a moment. We could look at infantry stats over here. And if we look at infantry health, this is a base unit. It has 187 base health, and I am giving it 104 extra health from all my bonuses. If I were to go in and make a quick swap over here using a 10% health skin, we were at 104 bonus to those stats. Now we go in, we look at the info, and we're at 123 bonus. So we got about 19 points of health contribution. And this is a helpful mental model, again, so we can compare apples to apples. When you think about just how good a special unit is, it is less beneficial than 10% of stat gain, more beneficial than 5% of stat gain from like a city skin. So I would say it's honestly probably about 6% of stats is the equivalency here. So with that said, now we understand exactly how to think about it. Let's go and put those special unit charts up onto the screen, and we'll start with cavalry. All right, the cavalry is where we start this journey. And I want to call attention to the fact that we'll be talking about the stats for T5 as our base stats. It is extremely similar for T4. The base stat elevation is sometimes slightly less, like 1 point or so less for T4 than it is for the T5 counterparts, but you get the general idea. Now, the base stats for Cavalry is going to be 220 attack, 212 defense, and 216 health. Going from left to right, the Elite Teutonic Knight has 5 extra points of defense and a cool 6 extra points of health. This is basically perfect. The only thing I would like more is if it was all stacked to health. That is because in my prior video, we already put the card for this, so you can watch that after this one. We proved that the stats you have the lowest are most likely the best to boost. Health is typically the lowest of all stats. And in Ark of Osiris, you have a 200% extra attack buff just in that game mode. So attack is a stat you care about the least. So I like defense, I like health as the choice here. Germany as a civilization in general is very solid, but we'll talk more about civilizations in a bit. The Elite Conquistador has everything going to attack, 12 points to attack. So it is one more total point than Germany. You get 12 instead of 11, which is very solid. However, attack is the stat I care about the least. Moving on to the Mamluk. You get a solid 7% attack and 6% health. 13 base points elevated is the best of any cavalry unit in terms of total points, although unfortunately attack is not the most important thing to elevate. The next is Byzantium's Cataphract, and that has 1 extra point of attack, and it also has 10 base points of defense elevated. Defense is a very solid stat to have boosted when compared to attack, especially for Ark of Osiris, so I would say the Cataphract is a solid unit. If I was ranking these, I would say the Teutonic Knight is number 1, the Mamluk is number 2, then I would say the Cataphract is number 3, and last is the Conquistador at number 4. Of course, all of these are better than the base counterpart right over here, the Royal Knight. Let's move on to the archers. The base stats for a T5 archer, that's the Royal Crossbowman right over here, is 220 attack, 216 defense, and 212 health. Going from left to right, the Elite Janissary is going to have an elevated 7 attack and an elevated 4 health for a combined 11 total base points. That is solid, but not as great as I would like, since attack is the stat I care about the least. Next up is, I think it's pronounced the Elite Hrang, and that has 1 extra attack and 11 extra defense. I love the extra defense for game modes like Ark of Osiris, and overall the Korean special unit is solid. Next up is the Chu-Ko-Nu. I think I pronounced that correctly, probably not. It's China's special unit. They have 7 extra attack and 6 extra defense. That is pretty solid overall. 13 base points elevated for the China special unit. Next up is the Britain special unit, the Elite Crossbowmen. They've got a cool 12 extra points going to attack. That is a ton of extra attack. But that, however, is the stat I care about the very least. Now, rating these is really interesting. I would say from a pure special unit standpoint, I would say my number 1 here is going to be the Hrang. My number 2 is a close toss-up here between the Janissary and the Chu-Ko-Nu. I would probably go with the Janissary since the Ottoman civilization is generally better overall, then the Chinese special unit, and then the Elite Longbowmen. That will be my prioritization. Last but not least is the Infantry. And, you know, I notice now my shoulder is blocking the watermark here of Stormy Rains from 1206, who put together these infographics. Really appreciate your putting these together and allowing me to use these in a video. We've got 220 as the base attack, 212 as the base defense, and 216 as the base health for a Royal Guard. You will notice immediately there are only 3 civilizations that have infantry special units. There are fewer of these. Now, the Elite Samurai is where we're going to start. They have 12 extra base points in attack. Whew, that is a lot of attack. You know, however, that is the stat I care about the least, given that also Japan as a civilization is typically oriented toward like gathering resources. This is a good civilization for a farm, but probably not what I would use on a main. I guess for counter rallies, if infantry is a thing, it will be pretty legit though. Next up is France's throwing axemen, and they get 1 extra base point of attack and 11 base points of health. This is slam dunk the best special unit, probably the best special unit overall in Rise of Kingdoms, because all of the allocation of stats is going to health. The throwing axemen are beasts. Up next is the Legionary from Rome. They have 1 extra point going to attack and 10 extra points going to defense. Very, very solid. Very good in Ark of Osiris. Not quite as good as the throwing axemen. So my ratings here will be number 1, throwing axemen. Number 2, legionaries. Number 3, the samurai from Japan. Okay, the final question now. Should you change your civilization based on the special unit? And I would say for most players, almost all players, the answer is no. The only players who should be considering it as a micro optimization are the players that are battling extensively in the open field with 5 of whatever march type that special unit ultimately is. They will notice a little bit of a difference here. So if you are an infantry player and you're fighting in the open field, like, gosh, would you choose between France or Rome? Although France does have 3% health as their bonus, and the Axeman has the most health in the game, and they've got the hospital healing speed, the thing that Rome has over it is the march speed. So if you care about march speed, and you wanted more stats in general for just infantry, you're going to get that over here from Rome. I would say between the two, it's honestly kind of a toss-up. I don't know that I would pick one over the other. I prefer the march speed over the healing speed because I'll probably have less troops hit the hospital if I march faster, or I'm going to inflict more wounds. So I would not pick between them based on the, civilization special unit, and I certainly would not pick Japan. Continuing to archers, I think it's unfortunate that Britain's longbowmen is the unit that I'm the least excited about, unless you're doing counter rallies, because in general, I do like the troop training speed, but I wouldn't pick an archer civilization based on the special unit. Britain is a good starting civilization for training speed. It is not a civilization I would stick with. In a similar vein, we get a look at China. This is a civilization good in the early game, but not a civilization you're going to stick with because you're going to max out your buildings eventually. You're going to want to be something else. For Korea, this is a civilization you use for a short time when you're using lots of research speedups. Otherwise, you move on to something else. Ottoman is still a great endgame civilization, and the Janissary does have some health. Some of the stat boost is attack, but nobody's running around in the field with 5 archer marches anyways. I think this is really not going to change your choice of civilization based on the special units if you care about archers. And last but not least, if you care about cavalry, I'll say that Germany continues to exceed my expectations all around as a civilization, and card up in the top where I've rated civilizations in a very detailed video, I would say that I slightly underestimated Germany in that video. The AP gain is amazing. The training speed is amazing. The special unit has the best breakdown of base point allocation you could probably ask for here. I think it's really, really solid as a civilization. Spain was slightly less impressive with their conquistador since everything is going into attack. Fine for hunting barbarians, less exciting in Ark of Osiris. In a similar vein, Byzantium is not a civilization I generally would be choosing, even though health is the literal best stat you could ask for. And the Cataphract had, I think, everything allocated to defense, which is really solid as a special unit. Generally, there are not a lot of occasions where you need cavalry health and hospital capacity. No, I think you're going to focus on the Mamluk, who's got 13 base point elevation anyways, and the cavalry attack is fine, but less than amazing. For a rally leader, this is still, I think, a really slam dunk solid choice. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll be eager to hear what you think about this interpretation of how base stat points work, the significance of having slightly more base stat points and the contribution that makes toward a rally or in an open field combat, and which special unit you think is the best overall. These represent my opinions. I think it's helpful, but keep in mind, like, look, when we talk about how much of a base stat point change it really is, as we look at these units, it really is between 5 and 10% of stats worth of value, really closer to like 6. And I think this qualifies solidly in the micro optimization category. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like onto it. Again, thank you to Stormy Rains from 1206 for the charts. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.